Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest brands out there.
A behemoth, really?
Yeah, Starbucks.
Yeah.
We're going to try to figure out how they built this whole coffee empire. How do they make all their money?
What are the costs they have to deal with?
Exactly. And how do they stay on top in such a crazy competitive market? So,
We've got their 10K reports
yeah, from 2023 and 2024,
ready to go.
ready to spill the beans.
Literally.
But before we get into all that, there's this one thing from the 2024 report that just blew my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that Starbucks gave their retail partners in China?
So the baristas.
Yeah, and shift supervisors an extra month's salary as a bonus, on top of their regular 13th month pay.
I did see that. That's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, it's wild.
It shows how they really adapt to different cultures and what employees expect in different places.
Yeah.
They're not just some global brand just stamping their logo everywhere. They really think globally but act locally.
Totally. Okay, let's get into how this business actually works. One thing that stood out to me in both 10Ks was how most of their revenue comes from company-operated stores. It was 74% in 2023 and then 75% in 2024.
Right. So these are the stores they run directly, not the franchises.
Exactly.
That's a big deal because it means they have so much control over what the customers experience,
Yeah.
the quality of everything, and how their brand is seen. They're not relying on franchisees to keep things up to their standards.
That makes sense. But wouldn't that also mean their operating costs are higher since they're responsible for everything? The rent, the utilities, wages, benefits, all of that.
You got it. It's a trade-off. More control, maybe more profit, but also more risk and more responsibility. Now, inside those company-operated stores, the reports show something else that's kind of wild. A full 74% of their sales, both years, came from beverages.
So even with all the pastries and mugs and coffee beans they sell,
Yeah.
if we're looking down to that coffee experience,
Exactly. It's at the heart of what they offer to customers.
it's not just about a cup of coffee though, right?
Yeah. No way.
Yeah.
They're selling what they call a third place experience.
Oh yeah, I saw that in the report.
It's like this space between work and home where you can just chill out, meet up with people, or get some work done.
Like a community hub almost.
Exactly. And they create this feeling with a bunch of different things, like the Starbucks card and the rewards program.
Oh yeah, makes it super easy to pay, and you get rewarded for coming back.
Smart. And remember those benefits we were talking about for employees?
Yeah.
Happy employees mean happy customers, right? They even mention giving interest-free loans for rental deposits to their partners in the UK.
Wow, that's incredible. It really shows they care about their people and the communities they're in.
It's all part of building that brand loyalty and setting them apart from everyone else. Because let's be real, Starbucks is not the cheapest coffee out there.
So true. How do they get away with those higher prices when there's so much competition?
Well, their strategy is based on a few things. First, they're super serious about quality. Those 10Ks talk about how they source, roast, and package their coffee. Everything is controlled to make sure it's top-notch.
Right. You can't charge that much for just okay coffee.
No way. Second, they're always adapting. Their reports talk about how they change their marketing, their promotions, even their prices, to stay ahead of the game and keep up with what people want.
So it's all about staying relevant and appealing to all these different types of customers.
Exactly. And that brings us to their third pillar, brand recognition. They've spent decades building a brand that people associate with quality, convenience, and that third place feeling we talked about.
It's like aspirational now. People want to be seen with that Starbucks cup.
Yeah, it's a powerful combo. But to keep that brand strong, they have to keep things running smoothly. What do you think are some of the most important things they do to make their business work?
Well, it all starts with getting those great coffee beans.
Yeah.
That's the foundation.
For sure. Then there's this huge task of making sure all their stores operate the same way and the customer service is consistent across thousands of locations.
Yeah.
It's a lot of training logistics, quality control.
It's crazy. And they got to keep expanding too, right? Finding
Yeah.
the best spots for new stores and making partnerships that help them reach new markets.
And let's not forget about their supply chain. We're talking a global network of suppliers, everything from the beans and milk to the packaging and those little green straws. Any little problem in that chain can mess things up big time.
It's like some giant, perfectly choreographed dance, isn't it?
It really is. And speaking of things that could throw them off, there are a lot of challenges and risks that Starbucks has to deal with. That's where things get even more interesting, and that's what we'll talk about next.
Can't wait.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
So we've seen how Starbucks has built this incredible business, but it's not all sunshine and roses.
Yeah. No business is perfect.
Exactly. And their 10K reports are actually pretty upfront about the risks they face. It's kind of refreshing.
It is. Most companies try to hide the bad stuff. But Starbucks seems pretty open about it. What kind of risks are we talking about?
Well, one thing that pops out in both the 2023 and 2024 reports is how much they depend on North America. Like, three-quarters of their revenue comes from just that one region.
Wow, that's a lot of eggs in one basket. What happens if the U.S. economy takes a hit or people's tastes change?
That's exactly what they're worried about. Any economic slowdown or shift in what consumers want in North America could really hurt their business worldwide.
They do talk about growing in other markets, but it seems like North America is still the main event.
It is. And this ties into another risk. They point out economic ups and downs. Remember, Starbucks is selling a premium product. It's a treat.
So when people start watching their spending, that daily latte might be the first thing to go.
You got it. The reports talk about how things like inflation, rising interest rates, even global conflicts can affect how much people spend. And that directly impacts Starbucks.
It's a good reminder that even a huge company like Starbucks isn't invincible. They're affected by things they can't control. Speaking of global reach, the 2024 report mentions some specific worries about China.
Yeah, it's a tough market with its own unique challenges. They talk about things like economic uncertainty because of political stuff, increased risks around data and cybersecurity, even food safety concerns, all things that could mess with their operations in China.
It shows that going global comes with a whole other set of headaches. What about competition? The coffee market is packed.
It's a battleground out there, and Starbucks knows it. They're getting squeezed from both sides. You've got those fancy independent coffee shops offering more specialized stuff, and then you've got fast food chains and convenience stores trying to get into the premium coffee game with cheaper options.
They're stuck in the middle. It's like a coffee war.
Totally. They have to keep their image as a premium brand and keep those prices high, but also fight off competitors who are trying to undercut them or come up with something new.
How are they dealing with all this pressure?
The 2024 report talks a lot about adapting. They're constantly changing their marketing, their promotions, and even their prices to stay relevant and competitive.
Makes sense. They can't just sit back and relax.
Nope. They got to keep moving. And this brings us to another thing that's been making headlines, unionization efforts.
Oh, yeah, that's been all over the news. How do they talk about that in their reports?
The 2023 report acknowledges that unions have won the right to represent workers in some of their stores, and they highlight how that could affect their costs and how flexible they can be with operations.
So they're aware of the potential challenges that unions could bring.
Definitely. And the 2024 report goes deeper, saying that unions have gotten a foothold in hundreds of their U.S. company-operated stores. They're worried about how it could impact their costs, their company culture, and how complex things could get.
It's a big deal, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Do they say anything about how they plan to handle these unionization efforts?
They don't get into specifics about their strategy, but they do emphasize how important it is to attract and keep good employees, especially since it's hard to find workers these days. It seems like they're trying to be the employer everyone wants to work for, which is crucial in this environment.
Right. It's not just about the money. It's about creating a good place to work, offering chances to grow, and having benefits that people want. Do they talk about that in the reports?
They do. The 2024 report specifically highlights the perks they offer, like paid parental leave, sick time, mental health resources, even help with housing in some places.
Sounds like they're trying to offer a whole package that appeals to employees in a lot of different ways.
Okay, we've talked about economic pressures, competition, and labor challenges. What about the big one, supply chains?
Oh, yeah. Supply chains are the lifeline of any business that deals with physical goods.
Yeah.
And for a company as big and global as Starbucks, it's even more crucial. The 2024 report has a whole section dedicated to the risks of supply chain problems.
So they're not hiding from the potential issues. What kind of problems are they worried about? They talk about how any major disruption in their supply chain, whether it's a natural disaster, political unrest, labor strikes, or even just logistical snags, could seriously hurt their ability to make and deliver their products.
And remember, it's not just coffee beans. We're talking milk, tea food ingredients, packaging materials. The list goes on.
You got it. And they rely on suppliers all over the world, some in places with less developed infrastructure or more political instability.
So they're constantly juggling things, managing relationships with suppliers, ensuring quality, and trying to prevent disruptions.
Exactly. And as they keep adding new things to their menu, especially fresh and prepared foods, finding reliable suppliers who meet their standards becomes even more critical.
It's amazing to think that behind a simple cup of coffee, there's this huge and complex network of people, processes, and resources that all need to work perfectly.
And any hiccup in that network can cause problems for the whole business. Speaking of complex networks, we can't forget about the digital side of things. Starbucks has invested heavily in their online platforms, mobile ordering payment loyalty programs, personalized marketing.
All right, they've gone all in on the digital world.
Mm,
But I bet that comes with its own set of challenges and risks.
Absolutely. The 10K reports shed some light on those risks, particularly when it comes to cybersecurity. A big chunk of the 2023 report talks about the possibility of data breaches, cyber attacks, and system failures.
So they know they're a target for hackers.
Yeah, and they're not downplaying how much damage a successful cyber attack could do, both financially and to their reputation. They talk about how cybersecurity threats are always changing and how they need to be constantly on guard.
Like an ongoing battle with the hackers.
Exactly. And they're also dealing with the challenges of following all these data privacy laws, which are different everywhere.
It's a complicated and ever-changing landscape,
Mhm.
and they have to be careful as they gather and use customer data on a global scale. They also have to worry about protecting their own stuff, right? Their intellectual property.
Definitely. Both reports talk about how important it is to safeguard their trademarks, copyrights, patents, and trade secrets.
So it's not just about protecting their physical things, but also the intangible things that give them an edge in the market.
Exactly. They talk about how hard it is to enforce those rights in different countries and how competitors might try to copy their products' designs or even their whole business model. It's a constant fight.
So even though coffee seems like a simple product, running a global business like Starbucks is anything but simple.
You said it. There are so many moving pieces, so many risks and challenges to navigate. But that's the reality of business today. You have to constantly adapt, innovate, and be ready to deal with complexity.
This has been really eye-opening. We've covered a lot from the basics of their business to the potential problems they face. But there's one more thing we need to talk about. What happens when a company built on a premium experience has to face a world where more and more people are struggling financially?
That's the million-dollar question, and that's exactly what we'll explore in our last segment.
So we're back, and we've really gotten into how Starbucks does business and all the hurdles they face.
Yeah. Trying to stay premium while the economy's a bit shaky, competition's fierce, and people want different things all the time. It's a lot.
And that brings us to our final thought, the thing we want to leave you with. We've talked about how that premium experience is what sets Starbucks apart. But what happens when that experience starts to feel out of reach for more and more people?
That's the question that keeps me up at night. With inflation still hitting people's wallets and everyone watching their spending, will people still be willing to pay $5 for a latte?
Will they start looking for cheaper coffee, even if it means giving up that Starbucks experience?
It could happen. And that's the challenge Starbucks has to face head on. How do they stay attractive and profitable when people are all about saving money?
The 2024 report mentioned some things they're trying, like using their loyalty programs and personalized offers to keep their most loyal customers happy.
Right. It's about rewarding those regulars, making them feel special even when prices are going up.
But they can't just focus on the people they already have right. They need to get new customers too, and those new customers might be on a tighter budget.
That's where they need to get creative. Can they come up with new drinks or something that gives a taste of that Starbucks experience, but at a price that's easier to swallow?
Maybe a new line of cheaper drinks or more grab-and-go options for people who are short on time and money.
It's about finding that balance between affordability and that special Starbucks feeling. And it's not just about the stuff they sell, it's about the whole experience.
That third place idea, can they make it even better, even more of a must-have for customers?
Maybe they make their stores even more comfy with better chairs and Wi-Fi, or maybe they do special events or workshops that create a sense of community.
It's all about giving people more reasons to pick Starbucks, even when money's tight.
It's a tricky situation, and only time will tell how Starbucks handles it. But it's not something they can ignore.
So there you have it, a deep dive into the world of Starbucks. We've looked at their strengths, their weaknesses, and the things they have to overcome in this crazy market.
But the big question is, can Starbucks stay premium in a world where everyone's looking for value?
It's a tough question with no easy answers, but it'll determine the future of this coffee giant. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. Make sure you subscribe for more deep dives into the amazing world of business.